What's going on, everybody? Welcome to an exclusive show. We're going to talk about the 2023 NFL schedule. If you have a favorite team that you're tuned into the stream to watch, I want you to get a chance to chime in and let us know who your favorite team is, and we can take a look down at their schedule. I'm waiting on Mike to come in. He's getting his camera together. As soon as he gets his camera together, I'll add him on here as well. There he goes. There he goes. We got him just in time. There he goes, Mike.
What's up,
Yes,
everybody?
yes, sir. What's going on, Mike? First thing Buddy said, Cowboys versus Bills, big week 15. Diz versus Diz. We're gonna dive into that. We're gonna dive into that one soon. But from a Falcon fans, I'm gonna go ahead and knock this one out first. Let's go ahead and get a quick look at the Falcons schedule to start 2023. You've been hearing rumors about it. The Falcons will open the season up at home against Carolina. Week 1, I'll be there. I'm a season ticket holder. I want my boy Mike to be there with me, but we're gonna try to work on that. But let's see. Week 1, we got Carolina at home, and then we got week 2. We got Jordan Love and the Packers at home. Week number 2. Then week 3, the Falcons will be at Detroit for their first road game of the regular season. That's another 1:00 game. Week number 4, this game is actually in London. The Jacksonville game is in London this year. It'll more than likely probably be on local like Fox or something like that. So be on the lookout for it. Week number 5, the Falcons are at home against CJ Stroud and the Houston Texans. As you see, the Falcons got a lot of early home games, as you can see. Week number 6, the Falcons are at home again against the Washington Commanders at 1:00 on CBS. Week number 7, the Falcons are at Tampa Bay. That's going to be one of the road games we have. Week number 8, we're also on the road at the Tennessee Titans on October the 29th. Week 9, the Falcons have another 1:00 game against the Minnesota Vikings November 5th at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, as you see. Week 10, the Falcons are at Arizona for a 4:00 game on CBS. We will be on a bye week number 11. Coming off the bye, the Falcons will play the New Orleans Saints at home a couple days after Thanksgiving. I'm looking forward to that matchup here in Atlanta. Of course, it's always fun, Falcons Saints. If you're not a Falcons fan, that's one thing that you should definitely be looking forward to if you're a Falcons fan. Week number 13, the Falcons will go on the road at New York to play the Jets. That's another 1:00 game. Week number 14, the Falcons are at home against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Got a week 15 matchup at home against the at Carolina. Week 16, the Falcons will be at home on Christmas Eve. This is going to be my first Christmas Eve game in a while. Against the Indianapolis Colts. I think that's the final game of the regular season that's at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, pending a potential playoff appearance. The final 2 games of the season for the Falcons will be at Chicago and at New Orleans. Me personally, looking at the Falcons schedule, one thing that I do not like, we have a ton of home games early. To me, when you're in a playoff hunt, let me come back a little bit closer on the screen so you guys can see us. One issue that I have about the Falcons schedule right now, there's a lot of home games early on. I do not like a lot of home games early. To me, especially when you're in the midst for the playoffs, if you're going to be in the contention for the NFC South this year, getting a lot of home games early may not be the best thing. I do know that we have our last 2 games. One is at Chicago, and the last one is in New Orleans. But at the end of the day, like I just mentioned, a lot of early home games. We got like 4 or 5 home games in the first 6 weeks, which I'm not too big on because, once again, Christmas Eve is our last home game coming up. But the one benefit of the Falcons, well, I don't know. Another issue I have with our schedule, we are going to Chicago and New York in December. You don't know what the weather's going to be like at that point of the season. You could play in the snow. We are a dome team, so that could be a disadvantage at some point down the road. But Mike, how you feeling about the schedule from what you've seen so far? Unmute yourself, Mike. I can't hear you.
let's go up so like the viewers can see who we got early again.
Okay.
Who we starting off with? I know we're one of the rare teams to get both rookies. The number one pick Bryce Young, and then number 2 pick C.J. Stroud. I guess number 4 pick Will Anderson. We get the luxury of our fans get to see those top young players in the bins, and that's going to be a luxury for us. Those are 2 teams that we should. I mean, on paper, we know the game's not played on paper, but on paper, we should handle. So the fans get to watch their team, should get a chance to watch their team flourish, as well as see the future of the NFL up and close. It's kind of like during the draft season where you hear GMs, hear scouts talking about Will Levis is going to go number 2. It's kind of like a smoke screen. We've heard people say that, Andy Dalton's going to be the week 1 quarterback. He could be. I don't think he will be. I think Bryce Young is going to be the week 1 quarterback. I feel like this is not a project. This is not Anthony Richardson with the Colts where you're trying to figure out, we're going to bring him along slowly. This is not Malik Willis with the Titans last year. You're going to bring him on slowly. I feel like you take Bryce Young because he's your franchise quarterback. Much like Cam Newton, you want to see what he has right away. You brought in weapons around him. You've added some pretty solid weapons on offense. So why not just go out there and see what he has? We're going to be one of the first teams to see Jordan Love in Green Bay, the post Aaron Rodgers era. And then week 3, we get the Lions, and the Lions are a trendy little pick. They could be coming off a loss week 1 against the Chiefs. We'll see. But those first 3 games, that's I feel like it's going to be some very interesting matchups. Those first, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to every NFL season, but those first 3 games, these will probably be like one of my favorite first 3 games since I've been a Falcons fan. Like I said, you get the start of Bryce Young's career, the Jordan Love era, and then the new trendy Detroit Lions, who many are picking to win that division and advance in the playoffs. I couldn't think of a better way to start the NFL season.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Another thing that I just noticed, we have 0 primetime games. That could change pending the new situation in the NFL. Maybe the Falcons get off to a hot start, and that can change. But at this moment, it looks like the Falcons will have 0 primetime games coming into the year. But Buddy, let's see. Buddy said Cowboys versus Bills, week 15, Diggs versus Diggs. Let's get a chance to touch on that Cowboy. Let's go look at the Dallas Cowboys schedule. I do know that they have one of the hardest schedules coming up this season, so I would love to get a chance to touch on them. They're coming off that NFC divisional playoff loss against the Dallas Cowboys, so I know they're going to be looking forward to their particular season. Let's hold on. We are actually pulling this schedule up now as we talk. Give me a second. Let me click off of the Falcons. I'm trying to pull up the Dallas Cowboys schedule as we speak. I can tell you this. They do have 6 primetime games coming up. The Dallas Cowboys will have 6 primetime games for Cowboy fans. So that's going to be an interesting thing to see for those guys. Let's go to their schedule. I just pulled it up. They released a press release on their page. Okay, as you see, as we get ready to go on the screen, the Dallas Cowboys will open their season week 1 against the New York Giants in New York. That's a primetime game. Week number 2, they got the Jets at home. That's going to be a fun game to see Aaron Rodgers coming in there. He has a good history against the Dallas Cowboys. Week 3, they got the Arizona Cardinals in Arizona. Week 4, you play the New England Patriots in New England. Week 5 at San Francisco. Then you got the Chargers, and then you got a bye week. After the bye, they got the Rams at home. They go to Philadelphia. That's going to be the first Eagles-Cowboys matchup of the season, week number 9. Week 10, they got another big primetime game. No, that's not a primetime game. It's actually just a regular game. against the New York Giants at a 4:25 start. Week 11 for Cowboy fans that are trying to go to the game in Carolina. They are going to be at Carolina November the 19th. Week 12, they start a 3 straight home game stretch with the Washington Commanders, the Seattle Seahawks, and the Philadelphia Eagles back to back to back. Then they got week 15 at Buffalo, week 16 at Miami, week 17 at home against the Lions, and week 18 at Washington. Honestly speaking, looking at this schedule, the Cowboys from week 13 to week 17 is going to make or break the Dallas Cowboys 2023 season, because you got Seattle at home, who is one of my dark horses to give a legitimate run in the NFC. You got your opponent, you got your rivals Philly coming in there. Then you got 2 road games at Buffalo and at Miami. And then you got a big Monday night game against the Detroit Lions. Mike, how do you feel about this schedule, that especially that 5-week stretch?
I agree with you, but I'm on up the ante. So we both agree on the stretch that you said, week 13 through 17. But I will say this: if the Dallas Cowboys, you see that week 1 through week 6 before that for the bye week.
Oh yes.
I will say if Dallas does not win, let's say they got the Giants away, the Jets at home, at the Cardinals, which should be a win. I think we can pencil that in now. You got the Patriots. If that's tough, Nate. I don't know if you recognize this, but that's a toss-up. The Giants, possibly the Jets as well, they cannot afford to slip up against the Cardinals or the Patriots, because those 49ers and Chargers games, they may be that's at 49ers. They may be an underdog week 5, possibly week 6. We don't know yet. But if they don't go, let me see, if they don't go 4-2, they could be in trouble as far as playoffs. Like I agree that week 13 through week 17 is the most important stretch of the season, but that week 1 through week 6 is very sneaky, because they could realistically lose week 5 and week 6. They're both on the road before the bye week, but they cannot afford to slip up against the Cardinals or the Patriots, because they may split with the Giants versus the Jets. They really need to sweep those first 4 games. They need to be 4-0 going into that 49ers game, because they cannot afford to be anything worse than 4-2 going into week 8 against the Rams. They can't afford it. They cannot afford to come out of week 6 3-3. It can't happen.
Truthfully, hey, I agree with you 100%, because really, like you just said, that week 13 to 17 stretch is going to be tough for Dallas. But that first 6, I agree with you. You got to kind of go 3-1. To me, you got to go 3-1 in the first 4 games, because going to San Fran in the rematch, going to LA and play the Chargers in the rematch is really, really tough. But you get the Rams, who we don't know what the Rams are going to be at that point in week 8. But you just, like you said, you cannot slip up, because week 5 and 6 is a small stretch for them that they got to win. And week 13 to 17 is very brutal to this team. So they did say that Dallas was one of the top 5 teams in regards to toughest schedules. Let's see what's going on, Morris. He said the Philly schedule is hard. We're going to go ahead and we're going to go over to the Eagles schedule. We did hear that the Eagles had the toughest schedule in the league, which is crazy to think about, the fact that they had the toughest schedule, considering they just lost the Super Bowl. And they weren't you would think the champ would have the harder schedule, but we're going to tap into that. We wanted to hit that schedule because our boy Buddy mentioned that there's going to be a big matchup between both Diggs brothers week number 15 in Buffalo, as you see below. So let's get ready.
Go ahead.
I
will say this before we move to the Eagles. I remember after the Super Bowl with the Falcons, that 2017 schedule was difficult for us as well. Remember, we had to face the Panthers twice and the Saints. They both made the playoffs. All 3 of those NFC South teams made the playoffs that year. We also opened up with the Eagles week 1, I believe. Now, I think we might have I think we played them in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But that was a very tough schedule as well for, I guess, a runner-up in the NFL the following season.
Yes, sir. So, you're right. We did have a rough stretch coming out. So let me get ready to pull up the Eagles. We're going to hit on the defending NFC champions schedule. Since our boy Morris mentioned this team, let's get ready to share this screen and go full screen to the Philadelphia Eagles. Again, if you are tuned in and your favorite team is up, let us know. We will hit their schedule because we are not discriminated from any team in the stream. Starting off in the regular season, the Eagles will open this regular season up in New England to play the Patriots. They get a Thursday night game. They're the first Thursday night game of the season. Not the opening night game, which let me take that notification down, against the Minnesota Vikings. Week number 3, they turn around and get a Monday night game at Tampa Bay, which is going to be a fun one to see. Week number 4, they got the Commanders at home. That's going to be interesting. Let's see. Week number 5, they're going to have the Rams at LA. Week 6, they go to New York. Week 7, they got the Miami Dolphins at Philadelphia. Week 8, they're going to go up against the Washington Commanders at Washington. And then week 9, they got the Cowboys at home before the bye week. Then week number 11, they got the Kansas City Chiefs. They're coming off their bye week to play the Kansas City Chiefs, the Buffalo Bills, the San Francisco 49ers. The benefit is two of them 3 games are at home. But they got Kansas City and Kansas City. You got the Bills at home. You got the Niners at home. You go to Dallas week 14. You go to Seattle week 15. You got the Giants week 16. And you get the Cardinals week 17 on New Year's Eve. And then week number 18, you got New York in the final game of the regular season at New York. As me and Mike was talking about, we talked about Dallas stretch down the stretch. This Eagles schedule from week 11 to 15 also can make or break their season, because you got the Super Bowl rematch. You got the Bills, the Niners, both at home, which that may be your benefit. You got that Philly crowd behind you at home. But you got to Dallas and Seattle back to back. That is a very, very, very rough stretch down for Philadelphia. So they said if they're going to go back to the Super Bowl, they're going to make that team work it. And yes, you are correct, Tevin. That Philadelphia schedule, that is why they gave them the hardest schedule in the league. But Mike, what's your thoughts on this Philly stretch?
Man, their entire schedule is actually brutal. And it goes back starting week 5 all the way until week 16, if we're being honest. Because you got the Rams away. It's the NFL, Of course, blowouts happen from time to time, but there's been plenty of times where a team that was favored by 14, 15, 16 points ended up being a 3 or a 1-possession game. So you start that week 5 going to Los Angeles. So you're probably going to spend the week out there because you're all the way on the East Coast. So you're probably going to get out there extremely early, and you're going to be practicing in Los Angeles leading up to that game. Then you got to go back all the way back to the East Coast, where you got to face Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. Then you go back, you return home, you have the Dolphins, and I feel like we've skipped over the Commanders, and I think that's primarily based because of the quarterback situation. But they are always a team that well coached with Ron Rivera. That defense, we already know what the defense is. That secondary is going to be a lot better this year. They have a lot of players. That offense, I think they have to figure out what they're going to do with. Is it Brian Robinson's team, or is it what are you going to do with Antonio Gibson? How are you going to split the carries up? I believe the Commanders could be a dark horse to grab one of those wild card positions as well. So that going to Washington, that's not going to be an easy test. Then you got the Dallas. Yeah, you got a bye week, but then one of the toughest 4 or 5 game stretches I've ever seen at KC versus Buffalo, the Niners, at Dallas, at Seattle. And this is not early September or early October. This is late December in Seattle. Ooh, y'all better. I mean, it is Philadelphia, so they used to that weather. But man, that's gonna be a tough environment. 12 man. Seattle looks to be one of those teams that are going to be vying for a division in NFC West, most definitely vying for a playoff spot. And then, that Christmas Day game against the Giants. But I would say starting at week 5, when you got 2 straight road games on different coasts, that's going to – man, honestly, the Eagles are one of my teams that I feel like are going back to the Super Bowl. I don't know about the AFC right now, but as far as the NFC – it's them between them and the Niners, but hey, they're built for it. I'm sure and around the locker room, they're like, hey, we didn't finish the job last year, so they're gonna be motivated. So they don't really care who they got to go up against. But starting week 5, I think that they got to start locking it in. You want to be locked in week 1, but we know that that's not always the case. Super Bowl winners, champions, they're tapped in. Appreciate you. But yeah, teams don't really start the season how they finish. So just because you start off high, it's usually the team that starts off about week 12, week 13, putting some wins together. That's the team that generally gets hot and wins Super Bowl. So I think the Eagles have to start getting locked in around week 5, week 6, because if they don't, you don't want to get left behind, because the Cowboys are no slouch. They could run away with that division if you start resting on your laurels and taking things for granted. So I think week 5, they got to start locking in.
Yes, sir. I do agree about that. And that's the defending NFC champion schedule. Let's kick it over to the Super Bowl champ schedule and see how were they either blessed or is their schedule rough. All right. Going to the Kansas City Chiefs. Week 1, of course, we all know. Let's see one comment real quick. Moore said you got to lock in now. Yes, sir. You just got to be locked in from day 1. You're right. Good. So week number 1, the Kansas City Chiefs will take on the Detroit Lions on kickoff night. I'm sure everyone heard about that game already. They definitely mentioned that. Week number 2, they got at Jacksonville. That's going to be a fun matchup right there to see. That was going to be a rematch of the divisional playoff game. I can't believe that's actually not a night game in week 2. Week 3, you got the Bears Justin Fields in Chicago coming into Kansas City to play. Then you got week number 4, they go to Minnesota in a Sunday night game. Also, for Jets fans that did not know this is the first time that the Jets will be on Sunday Night Football since 2011. I kid you not. This is their first matchup since 2011. All right, moving along. They go to play Aaron Rodgers in New York, and they go to Minnesota to play the Vikings that 5th week of the season. Then they get a Thursday night game at home against the Denver Broncos. Then they get to a little bit of rest, and they get the Chargers in Kansas City as well. They actually get the Broncos 2 of them 3 games. They then play the Broncos at Denver, and then November the 5th, if you've already remember, the Kansas City Chiefs is one of the international games this season. They will be playing against the Miami Dolphins, and they got a bye week. After their bye week, they got a Philadelphia Eagle Monday night matchup at home. Then they go to they go to Vegas to play the Raiders. They go to Green Bay to play the Packers. December 10th, they get the Buffalo Bills in Kansas City. Then the final 4 weeks is going to be at New England, against the Raiders at home, against the Bengals on New Year's Eve, and then the final game of the season is against the Chargers. This schedule is somewhat sweet. Of course, they got a couple of matchups in it that they're going to probably be tested, but this schedule kind of favors them. They don't really have no rough stretch to me. They have maybe have like a game here and a game there that might be kind of a hectic game for them, but overall, I don't see a brutal schedule for the Chiefs. It looks like they're going to have a decent schedule. They could run off 12 to 13 wins again. What do you think about the schedule, Mike?
Yeah, I agree. It makes you wonder. Think about hypotheticals. If the Eagles had won the Super Bowl, would they have gotten as generous schedule as the Chiefs did? Not saying that the Chiefs aren't deserving. I mean, I honestly felt like the defending Super Bowl champions should have relatively an easy schedule with a few big time matchups here and there. But I just think that you deserve that for going through the gauntlet the year before and finishing the deal. But looking at this schedule, there's a few intriguing matchups such as the Lions. I actually think that the Lions could go in there and surprise some people. I think they'll be able to score with the Chiefs, so that should be a interesting game, which is why I believe the NFL selected them as the Chiefs' first opponent. But even the Jaguars made some noise last year, so I know they're going to be hungry. It's going to be one of those first games of the year that they're going to be excited to get the Chiefs at home. I'm interested to see if that's their home opener. So I know Duval will be lit. So that's going to be a tough environment for the Chiefs. This is an interesting schedule. They got the Jets and Vikings back to back. The Vikings are always a pretty solid team. Last year they were one of those teams where they had a negative point differential, even though they had a winning record and made the playoffs comfortably. But normally when you have those a negative point differential, that means you're not really an elite team. So things usually come up to the mean. So I think the Vikings will be much better, overall better team this year. So that should be a tough environment as well, because going into Minnesota with the Skol crowd and everything, that's always interesting. But overall, I think the strength of schedule for them is going to come down to the division. Are the Chargers going to take that leap forward? Right now, they're stuck in that little area where they're not contenders, but they should. People view them as they should be. Like last year, they should have. Coming into the season, people viewed the Chargers as contenders, but they didn't play up to that level, and mostly due to injuries. They've dealt with a lot of injuries throughout the years. So if the Chargers take that step forward, and then you have the Broncos under Sean Payton this year, if Russell Wilson looks like Russell Wilson and they play like a vintage Sean Payton team, I think their division could make their overall strength of schedule, one of the top 10 strengths of schedules in the NFL. So I think it all depends on their division and how they, bounce back as far as the Broncos and the Chargers at the very disappointing ending against the Jaguars when they blew a 3-score lead.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I can agree with that 100% on their schedule. And I definitely want to see what these guys can look like. As you all see, they do have a total of 6 primetime games, which is deserving. They're the defending Super Bowl champs. They should. Another schedule that I've been hearing rumors about was a really hard schedule, and I'm going to show them real quick, is that Miami Dolphins schedule. I got big hopes for them, but let's see what their schedule is looking like. I keep hearing that the schedule is tough. All right. Week number 1, they opened the season up at LA to play the Chargers. That's a 4:00 start. They go actually the first 2 games on the road. They got the Patriots week 2 in a night game on Fox. That's actually a Sunday night game. Oh, by the way, for people that are accustomed to the NFL having a set station for games, as you see, that Sunday night game is listed on Fox. The NFL changed it where every network has their free pick at these games. So basically, no station is straight up designated for a particular thing. Of course, ESPN gonna do Monday Night Football still. That can still be done. But Sunday night, 1 o'clock, 4 o'clock. There is no conference tied to a particular game. You can get the game if you got a chance at it. So I want to just throw that out there real quick, just in case you see certain teams being able to play on a particular stations you just see them play on much in previous years. Moving along, week number 3, they got a home opener against Denver. We're gonna be looking forward to see what that team looked like under Sean Payton, as Mike mentioned a few minutes ago. Then in October, they got at Buffalo. They go to Buffalo and play the Bills. They got the Giants at home. They get potentially Bryce Young and the Carolina Panthers at home. They go to Philly. Then they get the Patriots at home. And then they go to Frankfurt, Germany and play the Chiefs. They get a bye. They got the Raiders at home coming off the bye week. Then they go to New York and then to Washington. Then they get 3 consecutive home games, but this December stretch, especially these back 4, is going to be brutal. They got Tennessee at home. They should win that game. But their final 4 games, you got the Jets you got the Jets at home, you got the Cowboys at home, you got Baltimore in Baltimore, and you got the Bills at home. The benefit is that they're playing them games at home, but that schedule is brutal in them final 4 weeks. So they better rack up as many wins as they possibly can in the top half of the season, because them final 4 could kick them out the postseason. We've seen it done before. Mike, what you think about this schedule?
They didn't do the Dolphins any favors with their schedule. There's this schedule actually, I believe, not to the extreme of the Eagles, but back to that Cowboys schedule. I think this is this has the potential of being one of those schedules that rank in the top 5 as far as strength of schedule goes. But we know what the Dolphins are capable of. If not for Tua, being injured, concussed a lot last year. Who knows what goes on with that division as far as seeding goes? But he worked with somebody. I don't know if it was like mixed martial arts or something, but he learned how to slide and take hits better this year. So that should be interesting. And if it works, if it translates onto the on-field stuff when he gets sacked or hit, whatever, and if he's healthy for the duration of the season, I think they have a team that's capable of withstanding this difficult schedule. But I'm looking forward to several of their matchups. Of course, that week 1 matchup, you can't overlook the Patriots going in Foxborough. You never know what Bill has cooking up, even though they've been disappointed the last couple of years. They have Sean Payton. They have him at their place. Got to go to Buffalo. Luckily, you get them in October and not late December, so you don't have to go and play in that weather. You got the Giants, and that Eagles matchup is going to be difficult. But yeah, you got to go to Candlestick. I think, they're playing the Chiefs in Germany, so you never know about those types of games. What typically happens is both teams will head out, like, I guess, a couple of days after their previous week's game. They'll go like on a Monday or Tuesday, fly out, stay the entire week and practice there in different country, get used to the time change and everything, just get familiar with everything. So you never know about those types of games. You can really just throw out bets or anything, because you just don't know how somebody's going to react to being in a different country, being across the ocean from their families, wives and children and whatnot, if they don't plan on attending the game. But these are some good matchups. I like what I've seen so far as far as the NFL not shying away from these big time matchups and not being scared of having these rematches in the playoffs like they have in past years. So I'm very excited about what I see from this schedule and a lot of the other schedules.
Yes, sir. I agree 100%. I want to get ready to click on the primetime games. We haven't hit a lot of, so we can really get a chance to see a lot of the matchups you're going to be looking forward to across the league. The first one comes from Twitter. It is the Sunday Night Football schedule. As you see, week 1 is going to be the first game of the Sunday Night Football schedule is actually a Thursday night game, which is Lions and Chiefs. Cowboys and the Giants get the week 1 Sunday night game. Week 2 is going to be Dolphins at Patriots. Week 3 is going to be Steelers at Raiders. Week 4 is the matchup I'm so ready to see is going to be Mahomes and Rodgers, Chiefs and Jets. Week 5 is the divisional round rematch between the Cowboys and the 49ers. Week 6 is going to be between the Giants and the Bills. Week 7 is another intriguing matchup. Dolphins, Eagles, a really good matchup. Can't wait to see it. Week number 8, you got Justin Fields and company going to LA to play the Chargers on Sunday Night Football. Week 9, you got the Bills and Bengals that I'm excited that they're going to actually get a chance to play a regular season matchup. I know that's the rematch of the divisional playoffs. Week 10 is going to be the Jets going up against Raiders. I'm thinking that matchup maybe because you got A-Rod on one side and Devontae Adams maybe. I'm not sure why the Raiders are on here multiple times, but I'll leave that for another day. Week number 11, you got the Vikings going to Denver to play the Broncos. Our Thanksgiving night game is going to be a fun one. That game is going to be between the 49ers and the Seahawks. I look forward to seeing that matchup actually too. Week number 12, you got the Ravens going to LA to play the Chargers. Week 13, you got the Chiefs and Green Bay matching up at Green Bay. Week 14, you got the Eagles and the Cowboys getting ready to duke it out on Sunday Night Football. I can't wait to see that, of course. Week 15, you got the Ravens and Jaguars. That should be a fun matchup as well. Week 16, you got the Bengals traveling to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. It's actually a doubleheader that week. They got another matchup between the Bills and Chargers. And in week 17, you got the Packers at Minnesota. Week 18 is to be determined. It's going to always depend on which two teams are fighting for the division title at that point. So looking at this schedule, I got a couple of games I can't wait to see. Week 4 is going to be fun. Week 5 should be a very good rematch for the Cowboys and the 49ers. Both teams have made some solid moves in the offseason. I look forward to see the Bills and Bengals get a chance to play on Sunday Night Football. The Thanksgiving game is going to be one for the ages. I think that Niners-Seahawks game might be one of the underrated matchups of the year on Sunday Night Football. Of course, Cowboys and Eagles is always a fun match to watch. Week number 14. And week 16 is another interesting. Well, actually, both games in week 16 I look forward to seeing. But, Mike, what do you think about these matchups?
First, I just want to say 90% of these matchups are games where I think you're going to have extremely high ratings. Hopefully, these are games where they're not compromised by injuries or whatnot, and we get to see everybody healthy and go up against one another. But they have some question marks, and I know I don't want to be one of those fans that are like, complaining and whatnot, but I can just start off with week 3, Steelers versus the Raiders. And this just must be a ratings grab because historically Raiders fans, they travel well and they just have a vibrant fan base that, when you put the Raiders on TV, people are going to watch. And then, of course, the Steelers have a national brand. But this game doesn't move me because Steelers are going to need everybody healthy the entire season, including Watt, for them to even be considered a playoff team. And we don't even know if Kenny Pickett is legitimately a good quarterback or not. He's good enough to win some games, but is he good enough to win that division? Even with all the turmoil and question marks with the Ravens this past season, then you got the Bengals. Like, I don't get the week 3 matchup because I don't even think either one of those teams are going to make the playoffs. I could be wrong, but moving on, let's see. The Bears versus the Chargers. Maybe this is just like a quarterback matchup. Justin Fields versus Justin Herbert. I don't get the matchup because the Bears are going to be a little better this year. I I don't see them as a playoff team, and I get it. You can't put the same teams on TV every week because you wanna spread the wealth around. But I guarantee you, people would rather see the Falcons versus the Saints, or like put like a rivalry. We got the Bears and the Chargers. Like, come on. The Jets versus the Raiders. Like, the Raiders got two. What did the Raiders do in the offseason that warranted two national televised games? I don't know. I mean, like you said, Nate, maybe it's the Aaron Rodgers versus Devontae Adams, but I don't know. I'm not getting that one. But the week 11, I feel like this will be a pretty good matchup because you get to see Jefferson versus PS2. So that's going to be a good matchup to watch. I'm sure by week 11, this Broncos team will look a lot different under the tutelage of Sean Payton. And the Vikings are always in the mix for a playoff run in the division. So, some people might have a question mark about this game, but I actually think this game brings some good matchups because that PS2 versus Jefferson matchup, that's going to be something that you're going to see a lot of YouTube videos on picking apart different plays and whatnot. But that should be interesting. That Thanksgiving games are usually pretty good. So I'm looking forward to that one. That's going to be one of the best ones I feel like that we've had in a while. Green Bay has two. I get the Week 17 matchup. So rivalry. It's late in the season. It could determine the division. But that Week 13 matchup against the Chiefs, like, I guess they're assuming – because even with Aaron Rodgers last year, Green Bay wasn't that good. So I guess they're assuming that Jordan Love's going to light it up. Like, Nate, can you give me like any insight into your brain, like what the rationale with the Week 13 matchup? I get it's the Chiefs, but the Packers, like, I'm not getting it. I'm not getting it. But maybe
that one either.
Yeah, but other than that, other than those 3 or 4 games, I don't have an issue with it. Like, they're really good. See, even going back to the Week 16 game, I'm not, destroying the Steelers. When I was talking about Week 3, I just don't see the appeal other than it being a brand, a nationwide brand game. But that Week 16 matchup, I get it. The Steelers are always around 500. They never finish under 500 under Mike Tomlin. So theoretically speaking, during Week 16, they should still be in it. And the Bengals are a Super Bowl contender, so that might impact who's the number 2, number 1, number 3 seed. So I get that matchup. I just don't get the Week 3 matchup. But enough harping on that. All in all, like I said, 90% of the schedule is something that I feel like most people will be intrigued with, and they'll be interested in tuning in. So overall, the NFL did a solid job.
I can agree with that 100%. Let me move over to the Monday night scheduling and see what ESPN cooked up. Let's see. I agree with Mike. I think NFL did a good job with this Sunday night matchup. So let's get ready to just critique Monday night. Week number 1 is only going to be one game. It's going to be between the Bills and the Jets on September the 11th. I think that is actually awesome that both New York teams get to play on September the 11th in a Week 1 matchup. Week 2 will be the doubleheader. We're going to get New Orleans at Carolina, and they're going to get Cleveland at Pittsburgh. Week number 3 is going to be the Eagles at Tampa Bay, and then you're going to have the Rams playing against the Bengals on, as you can see, one goes on ABC, one goes on ESPN. So you're going to get a couple of doubleheader Monday night games come couple weeks. Week number 5, you got the Packers going to the Raiders. That might be the most questionable matchup of them all so far. Week 6 is going to be the Cowboys at the Chargers. Week number 7 is the 49ers at the Vikings. That should be a sneaky good matchup, as one of our people that chimed in said earlier. Week 8, you got the Raiders again on Monday Night Football going to Detroit. I'm excited to see these Lions get some primetime love, not understanding this Raider love, not getting it. Week 9, you got the Chargers at the Jets on Monday Night Football. Week 10, you got Denver at Buffalo. I'm going to be intrigued to see how that matchup goes. Of course, the grand matchup, week 11, November 20th, you got the Eagles and the Chiefs. Week number 12, you got the Bears and the Vikings. I am excited to see Justin Fields get some primetime love. Week 13 is another interesting matchup against the Bengals and the Jaguars. That should be a fun matchup to watch. Week 14, the Packers pop up again on Monday Night Football, this time going to play the Giants. Week 14 is also Tennessee going against the Dolphins. And then week 15 is the Chiefs going on the road to play New England. Personally, I do not understand why Green Bay is on the schedule much. And I don't understand why Vegas is on the schedule much. Yet the Falcons got 0 primetime games. Don't know how, don't know why. I'm gonna pass over to Mike. That's all I gotta say about it.
Let's go week by week. Week 1, I agree with you. It's cool that the New York teams get to play on that day. Week 2, I'm okay with the Saints versus the Panthers. So the Panthers open up week 1 at Atlanta. So this is gonna be Bryce Young's first home game at Bank of America in North Carolina, and you bring in a division rival. A team that is predicted to be in a battle with Atlanta to win the division, as well as Carolina. So I get that matchup, and that's a region. That's not really a national matchup. That's more of a regional matchup. I feel like you'll probably have a lot of high ratings in the South and whatnot. As far as the Cleveland Pittsburgh, that's cool. It's a rivalry game early in the season. Week 3 is where I start having some issues. I get the Eagles, and I understand with the Eagles and the Chiefs and some of these great teams, you have to find a way to find games to put them on national TV. But I'm not getting this Tampa Bay matchup. I feel like games are not won on paper, but I feel like this is going to be one of those games where the Eagles win by 2 scores, but the score is not going to be indicative of how lopsided this game is. Is Baker Mayfield the Bucs quarterback?
Yeah.
The NFL, I don't get this matchup, and it may actually end up being a good game. They still have Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and the crew, but I think the NFL thought Tom Brady was going to come out of retirement and come back to Tampa, but because I don't know what they thought about going here. But I get the Los Angeles versus Bengals matchup. It's a Super Bowl. Super Bowl rematch. So I get it. Even though the Rams are not projected to be like contenders this year, I get it. Here we go again with the Raiders. Maybe they did something in the offseason that I did not pay attention to. Maybe Jimmy G is just that high profile of a quarterback, because not understanding all these national televised games for the Raiders. And I definitely don't get it going up against Green Bay. I'm actually very confused by this, but hey, whatever. Week 6 is going to be a fun matchup. I look forward to that one. Week 7, it's going to be that 49ers have to go into Minnesota. That's going to be a pretty solid matchup. Then we get to week 8 again. 2 weeks later, after the questionable matchup against Packers, the Raiders get another televised game against the Lions. And I get it. It's the Lions, and they're projected to be fun to watch, but I'm not. They lost Darren Waller, whatever. The week 9 matchup should be fun as well. I'm looking forward to the week 10 matchup because I'm really interested to see how Russell Wilson looks under Sean Payton, because they have weapons on offense. They have a really solid running back that's coming back from a knee injury, but they have weapons on offense at every skill position. The defense, the secondaries should be okay. Spearheaded by PS2, Patrick Surtain. But I think this is going to be a fun matchup. We all know about Week 11. I think that might be the highest rated game of the season to this point. So, yeah, we know about that one. The Bears versus the Vikings, it's the divisional game. And it's late in the season. You never know. The Bears could be in with the added playoff team. They could be in contention for a playoff spot. We feel like the Vikings will be as well. So that should be a fun matchup. I like the Week 13 matchup. A young up and coming team versus a team that was probably in the same position as the Jaguars a couple of years ago. So I think that those parallels are kind of interesting. You know, the Jaguars are trying to get to where the Bengals are, perennial AFC contenders, and I feel like they are where they are right now is where the Bengals were a couple of years ago when Joe Burrow was just fresh off of that injury that he suffered his first season. Green Bay versus the Giants. I mean, the Green Bay is a solid team. I think they're kind of like the Falcons. We got to figure out what is Jordan Love going to give us. If he gives us anything, Green Bay is a contender. Maybe not a Super Bowl contender, maybe not a contender to come out the NFC, but they're a contender in the division, and they're a contender to maybe advance in the playoffs if he gives them anything. Tennessee versus Miami. I think this is going to be a brutal year for Tennessee. I'm not even sure Derrick Henry will suit up for Tennessee at Week 14. So I don't understand. Maybe they're trying to – I'm not even going to try to hypothesize about what they're thinking right here with the Tennessee game. But Week 15, it depends on Mac Jones. I mean, it's not – I don't know. You know, it's the Chiefs – it's Bill Belichick, but Bill has kind of lost some luster lately, you know, with these losing seasons and not making the playoffs. So it should be interesting. The Patriots made some great pickups during the draft, so maybe this will be a bounce back year for them. But I think if you had to compare Sunday Night Football versus Monday Night Football, Sunday Night Football easily destroys Monday Night Football as far as great matchups. Like, it's not even close.
I agree 100%. I agree 100%. That's the Monday night game. I want to bring up one last thing before we get off of here. I want to see where me and Mike kind of stand at the moment with our own team, from a win-loss perspective, and see what we are thinking going into this game. So we're gonna run a game by game prediction for what we think at the moment. And then, of course, we'll talk about it later in the year when we get closer to the season. Because, of course, training camp, all those things going to come into play. But we're going to hit this at least before we get out of here, just to see what we kind of have us going before the season comes to an end. Week number 1. I'm going to put us on the screen so we can get – all right. Week number 1, the Falcons will open up at home against the Panthers. I think that's going to be a win for the Falcons. I think they come out swinging in their home opener. No disrespect to Bryce Young or Andy Dalton, whoever's going to start for the Panthers that game. It better be Bryce Young, first of all, Carolina. Don't draft him at number 1 and don't start him. But I just think the Falcons are going to be jacked up for that particular game, week 1, and I think the Falcons are going to be able to pull that one out at home. How are you feeling about that game?
Yeah, I agree. I don't think the moment will be too big for Bryce Young if he's the starting quarterback. I think he'll perform well, but I think coming into that building, I think the Falcons fan base is really disrespected nationally with the media. But when the Falcons are winning, or when at the beginning of the season, when the fans are excited, especially with this team, I think the fans are more excited about this team than they've been since maybe 2017, coming off that Super Bowl defeat. That place is going to be packed. It's going to be loud. The team's going to be jacked up. I don't see any way how the Falcons lose this game. I really don't.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So we got them at 1-0. Week number 2, the Falcons will take on the Packers at home at Mercedes-Benz. I think this game could be close, but I have the Falcons winning this game as well. I don't know what Jordan Love's going to look like for Green Bay yet. I think they got a talented young team, but I just think the Falcons should win this game. So that's really where I stand with it on that game. Mike, how about you? How are you feeling about that game?
Yeah, like you mentioned before we even opened this up, you know, with training camp and all that stuff, things can change. But right now I'm looking at it and I just don't see how the Packers can really move the ball enough to win this game because I feel like the Falcons are going to be able to get what they want offensively if they don't turn the ball over. I just don't see how the Packers are going to, even last year, Falcons were one of the best teams defensively stopping the run. So if you neutralize Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon and you force Jordan Love to throw the ball, the last time I saw him throw the ball, he didn't look great. So I know things changed. He has a full offseason as QB1, but right now I don't see a way where the Packers come out victorious in the Benz.
Yes, sir. I can agree with that. I'm switching over to another link because I didn't like the one that was up, so you guys can get a better. There we go. Much better view, much better graphic. Week number 3, you got the Falcons on the road at Detroit. I have the Falcons losing this game. I think that the Detroit Lion offense is going to be firing on all cylinders early in the season, and I think that could be the first real punch in the mouth that the Falcons take this season. So I think I have the Lions winning that game. How about you, Mike?
It's going to be a very good matchup. I think this is one of the matchups that probably should have garnered national TV consideration, and maybe it did. We just don't know about it. But I think this is going to be one of those games where, it's really a toss-up, but because it's in Detroit and thinking about their higher-profile offense, I think the Falcons are going to be really good on defense. So, man, I'm struggling with this one already. But because it's in Detroit, I'm going to give it to the Lions today. This could change next month, but as of today, I'm going with Detroit.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Week number 4, the Falcons will go overseas to play the Jacksonville Jaguars in London. I'm picking the Jaguars to win this ball game. I think that the Jaguar offense is going to be solid as well. I think that's going to be the first rough stretch of adversity the Falcons will hit this season. I just like what the direction that the Jaguar squad is going to be under Doug Peterson, and I think that team, that's basically their second home, so they're going to be jacked up to play at Wembley Stadium once again. I think the Falcons will give them a game, but I just have the Jaguars win that ball game. So at the moment, I have the Falcons at 2-2. Mike, how about you? How do you feel about that game?
Right now, this week 3 and week 4, I have them winning one of them. I have them splitting. So since I had them losing week 3, I'm gonna have them winning week 4, just because Trevor Lawrence, he's up and coming, and he's looking to take that next step to become a star. I know he performed well in the playoffs last year, but now he needs to take that next step to be a superstar. And I think games like this is games where he has to perform, and he's still prone to interceptions, turn the ball over. I think the Falcons will come out fired up after losing their first game, and I think that Trevor Lawrence will make too many mistakes too early, and I think it'll be too tough to overcome, and I'm going with the Falcons to win this game.
All right. Okay, we're moving on to week number 5, where the Falcons will come back home after a 2-game road trip to play the Houston Texans and C.J. Stroud and Will Anderson. There's going to be probably a lot of Bama fans pulling up to that game to see Will Anderson. But I think that the Falcons should win this game. I think it'll be their bounce-back game. That team, I love the direction of the Houston Texans. I just think they're just young right now. I expect them to play a good game, but I just think that the Falcons continue a solid start to their season at home to proving the 3-0 at home and 3-2 on the season at that point for me. How about you, Mike?
This is a little different from the Bryce Young week 1. I think CJ should feel a little bit like he belongs. He should feel like he belongs by this point in the season. Rookies tend to feel like, hey, maybe I don't belong here after a little bit of adversity. I think by week 5, he should have a mix of adversity, overcoming adversity, so I think he should be comfortable by this game a little bit. I just think that the Texans they don't have the talent to withstand what the Falcons will do offensively, and would just run the ball down their throat, which is because, yes, Will Anderson, he's an elite player. I just don't think that he's going to be enough. And what they have returning is going to be enough to stop that run game. I think the Falcons can just run the ball down their throats the entire game and hit them over the top with some Kyle Pitts here and there. And I don't see the Texans being formidable in this game right here, especially in Atlanta.
Okay, all right. We are moving on to the Commanders. That's going to be the next game in Atlanta for the Falcons. This one, actually, I'm split on. I think that the Commanders can win this ball game. They got that elite defense. They're going to have Emmanuel Forbes running the show at corner, and that could potentially be the Falcons' first home loss of the year. I think that Commander defense could give some problems to the Falcon offense because they can stop the run well, and I think it's going to be a slugfest of a ball game. But I'm actually picking the Commanders to win that one in Atlanta. Mike, how do you feel?
Yeah, we right there. I had the Commanders winning this game as well. Prior to this game, I had the Falcons 4-1, and while they have integrated a lot of veterans into the equation, I think starting off 4-1 for a team, an organization that hasn't had a winning season since 2017, I think they go into this game maybe feeling themselves a little bit too much. And not saying they overlook the Commanders, but the Commanders are a team that if you don't come in focused, locked in, being with that hunger, they will beat you. They're good enough to beat anybody if they don't come in with the right mentality. So I think coming in 4-1, I think the Falcons, they get knocked off in a close game, in a game that they later regret losing because they feel like they were the better team. But I think they lose this game.
All right. So far, Mike has the Falcons at 4-2. I'm at 3-3. Moving on to week number 7 at Tampa Bay, which is be our second divisional game of the season. That team is still talented. Let me go ahead and make that clear. They're still talented. I do not think that team wins this ball game at home, actually. I think the Falcons pull that game out at Tampa Bay. I just think that the Falcons are a little bit better set up talent-wise right now than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are, although they still do have Godwin, Evans, that decent defense and everything. I just think that the Falcons may be in a groove at that point and get back over 500 by my standards, but I have the Falcons winning that game at Tampa Bay. Mike, how about yourself?
Yeah, as we all know, the Bucks rested their players in the second half last year of that game where Desmond Ridder started and the Falcons beat the Falcons during that game because they had already locked up the division, I believe, at that point. So it was no need of them risking any injury. But even prior to that, in past years, even when the Bucks had won the Super Bowl, the Falcons had played the Bucks very tough. There were a couple of blown games where Tom Brady and Antonio Brown hooked up late and took the lead late in the fourth quarter, or even the game where last year where the Falcons were struggling the entire game and then got to a point, the Falcons were like, we're just going to run the ball down your throats and there's nothing you can do. And that was when they had Vita Vea and everybody else, and we were just running the ball. And we all know about the controversial roughing the passer, Grady Jarrett on Tom Brady. We all know about that, but without that call, the Falcons most likely go on to win that game. So even when the Bucks have been good in the last 2 or 3 years, the Falcons were devoid of talent, and they were giving the Bucks all they could ask for. Get us a divisional game so anything can happen. But I just think that the Falcons are going to continue to build on their success, relatively speaking, against the Bucks the last couple of years, and they're going to go in to Raymond James and take that win.
All right. Week number 8, the Falcons go on the road to Tennessee, and I don't know what that team is going to look like at this point of the season. I don't know. I don't even know if Derrick Henry's going to be on the team at that point because I still think that there's a potential chance that man gets traded at some point in the 23 season because that Tennessee team just got a lot of holes on that team. So I think the Falcons continue their winning streak and go on the road and beat the Titans to move to 5-3 through their first 8 games in my division, in my standings so far for the Falcons. Mike, how about yourself?
Yeah, I mentioned it earlier when the Titans have a nationally televised game. I think it's like week 14. And I was kind of like you just said, I don't even think Derrick Henry's going to be suited up that game for the Titans. I think he's going to be somewhere else at that point. I don't even know who's going to be the quarterback at that point. You know, it could be one of 3 quarterbacks. So the Falcons already had their game where they were, you know, thinking that they were better. You know, they was like, oh, we're here now. You know, we had a little success, so we're here now. They had that taste of defeat going into that game, and so I don't think they're gonna have any problems overlooking the Titans. I think they're gonna go into Nashville and handle their business and come out with a win.
All right. The next game, the Falcons will be back at home. That November the 5th game will be against the Minnesota Vikings, who won the NFC North last season. This is a game where I think the Falcons drop. I think that Minnesota team is still really good, and they match up very well with the Falcons. I think that team plays well enough to beat Atlanta in Atlanta, and Atlanta drops to 5-4 through the first 9 games by my division, by my standings. Mike, how about yourself?
The Vikings kind of remind me, they're kind of reminiscent of the Lions, in my opinion. I think they have some similarities. I think both teams have a wild card at quarterback where they can play lights out, throw for 400 yards, 4 touchdowns one week. But then the next week, they could throw for a $120 with a touchdown and 3 interceptions and maybe a fumble lost or something. So I think this is one of those games where the Falcons will have to force turnovers. I don't foresee the Vikings going in and running all over the Falcons. Like I said, I mentioned earlier, the Falcons are historically over the last decade one of the best run defensive teams in the NFL as far as rushing yards are concerned. And Ryan Nielsen, Jerry Grant, I think that the Falcons, if AJ Terrell can handle his assignment of Jefferson, if they don't move him around too much, I believe that the Falcons can come out of this game with a win. I really do. So I got the Falcons winning this game.
All right. Moving on to the following week is going to be on the road at Arizona before the bye week. I have the Falcons beating the Cardinals in Arizona. I think the Cardinals got a long way to go with that team, even at that point in the season. I just think the Falcons at the moment, going by right where we're at right now, I think they're more talented than the Cardinals. So I have the Falcons winning that game at Arizona to go to 6-4 through their first 10 games before their bye. Mike, how about yourself?
Yeah, I think the Falcons should be, looking at the schedule, this should be probably one of the more easier games of the season. They really have a soft spot in this schedule if you really think about it. And this is no disrespect to these teams right now, but from week 5 to week 10, Falcons should have no more than two losses. They really should have no more than 1. So I think this is one of those games where you have to win because you will be favored, and you should win this game. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So I got the Falcons winning this game.
All right. So the Falcons will be on a bye. I got them at 6-4. Mike, what do you have them at? 8-2?
I got them at 8-2.
Okay, you have them at 8-2. I have them at 6-4. Coming off the bye week, you got the New Orleans Saints in New Orleans. I have the Atlanta. This is a couple days of Thanksgiving. I got the Falcons getting over that hump. They have not beaten the Saints since November 21. They are not going to go down with a 4-game losing streak to the Saints. They're going to get that game at home to get to 7-4. If you know anything about these rivalry games, it's going to be a battle. But I do think the Falcons find a way to win that game coming off the bye and get to 7-4 to start this season. How about yourself, Mike?
I got to flip this corner right now because I don't. Well, I agree with you. I didn't want to say that Saints would come out with 4 straight victories, but I got the Falcons at 8-2. That, like I said, this is probably set to change at some point before the season. I know it will, but right now, man, ooh, this is tough. I wish if I knew who the Saints had prior to these games, it would be easier. But I'm gonna go with, ooh, I'm gonna go with the Falcons here. I think they're gonna be jacked up trying to win this game for Ryan Nielsen and Terry. I think guys like David Onyemata, who's heard the disrespect from Saints fans talking about, oh, he was only good when he was on PEDs, or that's why we got rid of him because he wasn't doing anything. And I think guys like Caden Ellis, he's gonna prove that, hey, you didn't think I was good enough to re-sign or pay, and these guys value me. So I think those two guys are gonna they're gonna put their stamp on this game and impact this game, and I think they're gonna be the factors of the Falcons winning this game. So I got the Falcons winning.
All right, Mike got them at 9-2. I got them at 7-4. To start the month of December, the Falcons go on the road to play the New York Jets. This is where I think the winning stops. I think Aaron Rodgers and company will be jacked up at that point in the season. And I think that the Green Bay Packers, the New York Jets will find a way to get a big time victory at home against the Falcons. I think Aaron Rodgers may be in the zone at that point. So I have the Falcons losing that game and dropping to 7-5 through their first 12 games. Mike, how about yourself?
Yeah. I think defensively, the Jets may pose some things that may be too difficult for the Falcons to overcome. I feel like Sauce is going to lock up his man. He's going to prevent a big game from his man. I'll put it that way. I think their defensive front, this may be one of those games where we may have to just kind of like that San Francisco game last year where we just said, forget it, Marcus, you're not getting it done. We're just going to run the ball. I think because of that defensive line, I think we may be forced to do something similar here. Defensively, it's going to be tough. We're better defensively, but still Aaron Rodgers and the weapons he has. I think that in order to win this game, our defensive line is going to have to take advantage of their suspect offensive line, which I think we can. I don't think it's going to be a blowout by any means, but I think the Jets win a close one. Maybe they kick a game-winning field goal, or they go for like they hold on late, get a late interception or something. But I think the Jets hold on. But I think it's going to be a good game.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Moving along to the following week, you have the Falcons coming back home to play one of their final 2 home games of the regular season against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think the Falcons can get the sweep at this point on Tampa Bay. I just don't know what that team is going to be looking like. So I have the Falcons winning both games against Tampa Bay this year and moving to 8-5 on the season. How about yourself, Mike?
Yeah, not much here to say. At this point in the season, they may be going with Kyle Trask instead of Baker, just because I think they're probably going to be out of it. And who knows what they do at the trade deadline, because this is after the trade deadline. So who knows if Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Devin White, all of them are there. Who knows? So I got the Falcons sweeping the Bucs as well.
All right, so I have the Falcons at 8-5. I think Mike has them at 10-3.
10-3.
10-3. Okay. So the Falcons the following week will take a trip on the road to Charlotte to play the Carolina Panthers. I actually have the Falcons losing this game. I think at this point in the season, Bryce Young will be a little bit dialed in. They would love to get an NFC South win. And I think that the Falcons might have a hands full out there with the Carolina Panthers. So I have the Falcons dropping to 8-6 at this point in the season. How about yourself, Mike?
Yeah, I think this is going to be one of those games. I think moving forward, This is a very important year for the Saints as far as going forward in the NFC South, because I think establishing this year, this may be a division that's ran by the Panthers and the Falcons moving forward. And I think that starts week 15. I think Bryce Young has a coming out party, and I think he lights it up. I just think he has one of those games where you just look back and you're like, hey, we couldn't stop him. You got to tip your cap and move on. But yeah, I think this Panthers team, this is around the time where they start looking like the Lions did last year. You know, the Lions started looking scary last year, in the last year. I think this might be where the Panthers start looking scary en route to 2024. So I got the Panthers winning this game.
All right. Well, when we go to the next game, he said you got to loosen everybody. Listen, if as the season could change a lot, but at this moment, I think that's kind of the direction I see this season going so far. Maybe one of those games that I picked us to lose is going to probably be a win, but I'm just keeping it kind of rational right now from what I know. And I'm kind of based it on not knowing much about Desmond Ridder just yet as a full-time starter and just seeing what this offense look like going forward. But moving along to the next game, the final home game of the regular season on Christmas Eve against the Indianapolis Colts, I think the Falcons bounce right back to where they were to their winning ways, and I think that the Falcons get back in the win column and get to 9-6, and at a 9-6 record, you sound like you're in the thick of the playoff race. But I have the Falcons winning this game to go to 9-6.
Yeah, agree here. I'm curious to see if this is where the Colts go in and insert Anthony Richardson, or do they start him from day one? Much like Desmond Ridder and the Marcus Mariota thing last year. You can go back and watch our old videos. I said like within the week 12 through 15 area, that was where Desmond Ridder would be inserted. I said that like before the season. I think this is kind of similar. So I think this will be where Anthony Richardson is kind of like still trying to find himself. And while the Colts still have a formidable defense, I think that it's going to be tough for them to move the ball, especially late in the season against the Falcons at home, where the Colts are going to be on the road. So I'm going to go with the Falcons.
All right, moving along to Week 17, which is the last game of 2023, the physical year. You got the Bears. I think that the Falcons pull that game out. They pull a tough game out on the road. I think they're going to have to grind that one out against Justin Fields and company, but I think the Falcons can find a way to win that game and move to 10-6 on the regular season at that point and give the Falcons their first double-digit win season since the 2017 year. Mike, how about yourself?
You know, this is where it's kind of getting concerning for me. You know, I had the Falcons starting off at 8-2, but if you go back and look at that Bears game last year, Justin Fields, quite frankly, the Bears probably should have won that game. It was poor coaching, decision making towards the end of the game that cost them that game. Justin Fields had a great game. He was a problem for the Falcons, using his legs and throwing the ball, because the previous week before he had struggled throwing the ball, and the commentators kept harping on, well, he's going to have to learn that, you know, he can't just run everywhere. He's going to have to throw the ball. He threw the ball pretty good against the Falcons. I'll put it this way. He made the throws he needed to make to keep the Bears in the game and keep them in a position to win that game. But like I said, I felt like the coaching staff let him down that game, and he actually got hurt that game. I think they put him back in. But that was at home. This is on the road. It's probably going to be temperatures south of 30 degrees. Soldier Field. This is a tough matchup, and why I opened up saying this is concerning, because I had the Falcons losing to the Jets, the Panthers, and now I had them losing to the Bears. So that would be 3 losses out of their last 5 games, I believe. So, yeah, I have the Bears winning this game, and that's very concerning with the Falcons right now for me.
Yes, sir. Final game of the regular season the Falcons will go to New Orleans for the divisional rematch. And who knows if this team is both teams are competitive, this could end up being for the NFC South title. But looking forward to this season. The Falcons, I have the Falcons losing this game and splitting with the Saints to end the season at 10-7. I think 10-7 is good enough to get into the wild card round if you're the Falcons, if you don't win the division at 10-7. But I think I have the Falcons with a 10-7 record through the 17 games we have and from what I know about this team at the moment. How about yourself, Mike?
Yeah. The final game of the season is always one of those games where you probably have a lot more teams winning that shouldn't win, just based off of teams tanking or teams not needing to play their players second half of the game because they already locked up a playoff game. And I guess it depends on what time of the day this game is too. So if this is like a Sunday night game, it's been flexed in, and then the Falcons learn that, hey, we are in the playoffs, or the Saints learn we are in the playoffs, with those earlier games, that could dictate who plays this game as far as starters. But I feel like because this is such a hated rivalry, it's kind of like Steelers Browns, Steelers Ravens. I just think that regardless, even if you have a scenario where players are sitting out, it's so just that energy in the building. I'm gonna be there. So I've been in one of these games before, and the energy in the building, the players feed off of that. Like, it's gonna be crazy. I think that regardless of who plays, it's gonna be a lot of focus, a lot of attention to detail. But when you have a chance to sweep a hated rival, you got to take that. You got to make the most of the opportunity. And I think the Falcons make it so much sweeter by sweeping them in New Orleans. So I got the Falcons end the season at 12-5.
Okay, that's a good record. Either or, I would love it. Either record, I would love that. We both have them with a winning record through 2023. Mike has them at 12-5. I have the Falcons at 10-7 on this season. Like I said, it could change depending on what happens with the season. They could end up being better than 10-7 or 12-5. Who knows? But either way, we both have the team where they stand right now, having a successful 2023 campaign based on the scheduling right now. So again, look forward to the season. Look forward to myself and Mike being on here talking about these Falcons, because that's the last hurdle that we all had to hit before the actual season. Now it's just training camp, mini camp, OTAs. At this point, you kind of getting ready for the season now. You're less than 4 months away from the season. So with that being said, I think that's the last thing I have to say about the scheduling situation. Mike, how about yourself?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Like I said, I know some people will be like, well, y'all are biased and whatnot, or whatever the case may be. But this is May 11th. I'm quite sure that the games that we chose today, we might end up with the same record next month or in August, but I'm sure the games will change. And unfortunately, because of the physical nature of football, there will be injuries. There will be key injuries to a certain team. So that could also change the trajectory of teams' futures and whatnot. So right now, this is where I have them. I could feel differently tomorrow. There's a lot of games on here that could go either way. But for right now, I feel comfortable with having the Falcons at 12-5. And, I'm usually one of the more pessimistic fans. So for me to say 12-5, that's a lot. But because of who I am, it could be 10-7 next month. So we'll see.
Yes, sir. And everyone, that has been your schedule review show. We hope you enjoyed it, and thank you for everybody that's been tuned in with us. We're going to come with some more content as the season gets closer. But until next time, this has been Nate and Mike with the schedule review, signing off, and y'all have a good rest of the night, and get ready to tune into that fourth quarter at Boston and Philly game. Philly came back for the ones that wasn't watching that first. Until then, have a good Thursday night.
Later.